In a time and place when you can work from anywhere.
Two ladies in their mid to late 27s have decided to.
And they're calling it workcationing.
Have the ladies gotten in over their heads in Medellín?
Who threw us into the deep end of the travel pool?
That would be me and Reddit, sorry.
Your Gringas are seeing some truly scary shit.
And this is the Workcationing Podcast.
So we've regrouped.
Back from the bathroom. I have my chapstick still. Didn't lose it.
Good job.
I've been known to do that. Chapsticks are hell in the dryer.
Oh, yeah.
Have you ever ruined a shirt with some cherry chapstick?
I've ruined a lot more than a shirt.
All right, so we should get back to it. And now we are in the spicy little elevating the heat up in here.
Yeah, we were just getting your palate ready with the first one, and now we're ready to really bring the fire.
I don't know how ready I feel to bring this fire or how ready the listeners are to hear about it, but
we're doing it.
Yeah, let's just talk about our experiences, shall we?
Yes. So one thing I think that was really interesting, and I think is a good place to start, is a couple episodes ago, we had an interview with our friend Kate, who came to visit us in Medellín. And one thing I thought was really interesting about Kate was that Kate showed up to Colombia with an actual National Geographic guidebook.
I was really jealous when I saw that because my first thought was, Gringa, maybe we should have picked one of those up at the airport.
Just maybe.
Just flip through it a little bit?
Didn't even buy it. Maybe pick it up and flip through.
Right.
Even, you know?
Didn't do that.
Did not.
I Googled it. I popped a Google on it. I read some articles. The articles that I read, and I think that we talked about this in a previous episode, but the articles that I read were largely written by men.
Yeah.
And the articles that were written by women were kind of like digest articles, 22 cheapest places to live kind of thing. And I just want to reiterate how important it is, ladies, when traveling, especially when traveling to weird places such as Medellín, Colombia, you might want to check the byline on that article because the experiences that male travel writers have are different. They're valid. They're real experiences, I'm sure, that these male travel writers are conveying to you through their stories. But it's worth considering, is the male experience going to be different than that of the female experience when it comes to who's traveling? And in Medellín, Colombia, I would say that the answer to that is absolutely yes.
Yeah, I would 100% agree. And I think we even figured that out just because of the way Medellín is. We didn't really make a lot of female friends. Most of the people we met were men because most of the people we met were traveling. Most of them were Americans and most of them were men. And that's just, we met some women.
There were a few couples.
And we met Stephanie O'Connell.
Right. She was a single lady traveler.
And she was great. But for the most part, the majority of people we met were men.
Right.
And their experience was different than ours by a lot.
For sure. Again, talking about the undertone of misogyny that we've experienced, it's kind of tainted all of our experiences in this city.
Yeah, it definitely has.
Men are treated different here. Certain things are more accepted of the men here. For example, pool-time prostitution.
Yeah, that seems to be just very run-of-the-mill around here.
It is. I can confirm. So what did you think of that National Geographic guidebook?
I read it, and what I saw in there was not really the experience that I recognized. And when I looked to other resources, but even like Wikipedia, I read about I'm like, is it safe to go to Medellín?
Is it?
Wikipedia made me think it probably was. It said that it used to be bad.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the articles that I said indicated the exact same thing. Medellín used to be a very dangerous city.
Right. And here's the thing is that I don't know. I really can't, Kari and I can't tell you for sure what's going on here because I'm not real deep in it.
Right.
We're
trying to stay on the periphery of all of this as much as we can.
We're just looking around at what we see and trying to connect the dots. And that in no way is to say that we're connecting the dots in the right way. But just as a for instance, when I did check out that Wikipedia page, it says that the cartels are mostly gone and that the city is mostly run by, I don't think business czars is quite the right word, but there's like a business conglomerate.
Okay.
There is a guy who's in charge of real estate, who does just kind of all the real estate and building and development around there. And then there's a guy who does like basically all the restaurants. Not all, but you know what I'm saying.
Right. Specialization.
Yeah, exactly. So if you read a lot of these articles, it'll lead you to believe that a lot of this cartel activity is in the past. But just from the conversations that we've had with people here and like some of the things that we've seen, we are not inclined to believe that that is the case. We don't know.
I've
but
read
if I
some
had
news
to bet,
articles. I've read some news articles. I've got some quotes. We can just hit the people with some newsy facts if you would like.
Absolutely.
But the past tense, very large, flashing, sparkly glitter, question mark, flashing above that one. Just red flags and questions over here.
Right. And so we're going to dive into a little of what we've seen and why we feel that way.
So maybe we should start kind of light. Again, this is like medium heat. We'll build up. Mm-hmm. Ladies, if you come out to Medellín, Colombia, you might find yourself on a little app called Tinder.
These things happen.
Sometimes it just opens on your phone.
Yeah,
you know. Next thing you know, you've been swiping for longer than you care to admit, maybe.
Yeah, these things happen.
Kelly and I did that a little bit.
Yeah.
Swipey
it's a good
swipe.
way to meet people. We made some great friends, actually, that way.
We did. And in the course of Tindering in cartel country, Kelly and I have come up with some tips.
Yes.
So the first tip, Kelly, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I think the most important tip is that you really want to look out for the subtle to even ostentatious displays of wealth in the profile pictures. From what we've seen down here, there don't appear to be like a whole lot of ways to get rich in Medellín.
Right.
I'm sure that there are plenty of legitimate ways for that to happen, but if somebody is posing with a bunch of really sick cars in the background...
Hey, does that car look bulletproof maybe?
Yeah. Just think it through. Just look at it with a critical eye. You know?
So those subtle to ostentatious displays of wealth that you might see in the U.S. on a Tinder profile that might make you think, Ivy League grad, maybe?
Doctor, maybe?
Has a good job, probably.
Right?
Maybe smart, would probably pay for dinner.
Right?
I don't know. Could be good company.
Yeah, these aren't necessarily red flags in the U.S. In fact, they usually aren't.
But I would encourage you to think twice before swiping right on anyone being a little flashy flash with the bling bling in cartel country.
You see a Lambo, you just pause and you wait for more information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what I would do.
Is it a rental?
Right.
Is it a local? Is it a local in a rental? Is it a foreigner in a rental? I think that makes a difference.
Right. All these things are things to consider. So fancy cars does not mean cartel.
No.
But it could.
It could. And while we're on the subject of dating the locals, I don't like to generalize. I really don't. I fully believe that individuals are individual and should be judged as such, but sometimes it is safer to collectivize in a lot of ways.
Well, especially when you're traveling and you're having to make snap decisions. Like, you can't PC police your brain too much.
Right.
Because you have to be able to recognize patterns, otherwise you're just fucked.
Now, I don't know how well this carries over to Tinder specifically, but I will say that we encountered some articles in the Digital Nomad Medellín Facebook groups about what it's like to date Colombian men and ladies. It was not a pretty picture that was painted.
No. And once again, don't want to generalize, but from what we've seen in some things that we heard from other ladies, they can come out a little strong.
They can. They tend to cheat on you from what I've seen or heard.
Yeah, that seems to be a lot of the culture. Also, the families get involved just very early.
The mom and aunt are going to be text messaging you. That's a lot for me.
That's a lot. Like, that's not really what we do
back
home.
No.
So if you're not really into that, you might want to think twice.
Maybe after like a year. Maybe after you've spent the holidays with the family, maybe you might text with a mom to find out what to get the boyfriend. I can see some instances where it might not be overwhelming for the mother of somebody that I'm dating to text me. I've texted with mothers before,
sure.
But really not early on in the relationship at all. And it sounds like that's just
pretty par for the course.
Right.
Yeah, that would be a lot for me to take on early on, especially if it's like a traveling situation and this is somebody who, I might go on a few dates with. Mm-hmm. I don't really need to talk to mom, I don't think.
And I have to say, I did not just read one article about this. I read about a half dozen articles about this. I kept looking for an exception to the rule that was going to tell me that the Colombian men were not going to be controlling and not like it when you go out with your lady friends, and certainly going out with any guy friends to any kind of event or shindig is not okay.
Right. Which is not something that I would be personally able to tolerate.
No. No, that seems a little heavy-handed to me. So again, your mileage may vary depending on the individual that you interact with, but I think that it's worth pointing out that there are certain cultural norms that maybe creep up on you.
Yeah, you can't assume that your dating experience is going to be like what it is at home, so just keep it in mind.
So that's what to look out for when you might encounter a local on Tinder. But what about the backpackers? Because that's another thing.
All the backpackers.
And maybe this is something for the ladies and gents to watch out for.
Right.
This goes both ways.
So the Spanish word for backpackers is mochileros. And mochileros are not regarded particularly well in Colombia.
No, they've got a bad name, and they're mostly American from what I understand.
Yeah, they've kind of got a reputation for being sort of dirty, a little grifty, maybe packing 20 people into an apartment until it smells like a hamster cage.
Right. Not a lot of showers going on with
Right.
these people, from what I understand. And they just seem kind of slimy and out to get benefit where they might not have earned it.
Right, which is not to say, once again, this is not all backpackers at all. And we've met people who are traveling in that way who are fabulous.
No, but they are quick to tell you about a lot of other backpackers that they've encountered.
Right. And if you are going to be traveling in that way, it's just a good thing to remember how that looks to other people.
Right.
If you're traveling on a budget, like on a really tight budget like that, I think that's actually really cool. That would be a real challenge. I think especially with our jobs, we can't really do that. I see the benefit of it, but you just need to think about what that looks like to other people for sure, because you need to understand you're not going to have the best reputation to start with. And so just make sure you're being super courteous, and that's going to go a long way.
One thing that I have delighted in recently has been a folder that's on my desktop. I think I've told you about this.
Yes.
I have a folder on my desktop of digital nomad douchebags. And what this folder contains is a series of screen caps of and links to various just shady ass things that various digital nomads have just publicly posted and felt like this is okay and not something to be ashamed of.
Yeah, just some real unclean grifts out there, I have to say.
So what we have here is a Facebook post on the Digital Nomads Around the World group. And this Facebook post says, "How much do you guys try to limit your budget per day as a digital nomad?" Now, this guy Daniel, first to respond.
Very bold, this Daniel.
Quick with the response. Daniel writes, "If you ever go home with someone from a bar, make sure you snag some fruit and protein bars on your way out in the morning. Pound some coffee before you leave, or just take the mug with you. Most people have too many mugs anyway. Basically, just steal as much as possible." Now, that's Daniel's tip for thrifty traveling.
Oh, thanks, Daniel.
You know?
So, hide your kids, hide your mangoes.
I guarantee
Daniel's coming over. Gonna take your protein bars and your coffee mug. You had too many anyways.
Right, you didn't really like that caffeine
in your
coffee mug.
Airbnb that wasn't even yours. Damn,
What
Daniel.
is this? So Daniel's probably on Tinder looking for a lady that he can shack up with.
Because he's hungry.
Oh, God. And
Gringo needs some coffee.
you better keep your eye on your fancy travel mugs. If you've got a Tervis tumbler, you better stash it in your nightstand or something.
Right. So once again, just understand some of the other motivations that might be out there if you run into other travelers, and just keep your eye on your mugs.
Yes. Watch that. I have seen, one day we'll have to have a podcast that's just the best of my digital nomads.
Oh, absolutely. Because there's some real gems out there. Just no shame. No shame in their game.
No. And we'll continue to pepper the podcast with these douchebags as I encounter them. Watch out. I'm all over these boards.
Coming for you.
If I see you being a douchebag, I'm going to screen cap that saying and bring it up later.
For sure.
Okay, so now that we're over the Tindering and cartel country, I think maybe we should talk about some of the signage that we've seen in Medellín.
Yeah, there's some interesting signs.
We've posted some of them on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
The sign in particular that we're talking about, it says, "Say no to sex tourists." And it's in Spanish and English, so everyone gets the message.
Right.
And the logo is a high heel, a lady's high heel, stepping on what I guess is the footwear of choice for sex tourists, which is a flip-flop.
You know, from what I've seen, kind of accurate.
That stiletto heel is just piercing that flip-flop and saying, "Not today."
Not today, sir.
No, So sex tourism is such a problem, and it seems like some of the people of Medellin, obviously a lot of them recognize it, particularly the business owners. You see these on a lot of coffee shops.
Right.
You see these signs at fancy restaurants. Incidentally, I saw one of these signs at a very fancy restaurant, and this was the first time that I had seen one of them before.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I snapped that pic and put it on Facebook.
Right.
And so we go in and have dinner, and I go to the bathroom, and there is, I shit you not, a porn station next to the men's bathroom. And Facebook actually took this down on account of the porn.
Oh, I remember this.
Right? But it's still on my Instagram. It's instagram.com/Carrie2Phillips. You can check it out. This video is crazy. And you go up to this booth, and there are 2 porn magazines, depending on your choice, a classy looking lamp, and a stool.
Right.
And then right across the way is the door to the men's bathroom. And I really want to know who sits at that stool. I did not want to touch these magazines.
No.
They were open. One of them was open to a centerfold.
Like, say no to the sex tourist, but here is your free porn station.
I didn't understand that at all. I don't understand how a fancy restaurant, it was a very nice restaurant, would have that sign and then also have a porn station.
Right, and Carrie and I are like not particularly easily shocked.
No, I'm really not a prude when it comes to this kind of stuff. I'm just trying to reconcile the two in my brain.
Yeah, it's just a weird juxtaposition. It's also just a weird mindset, you know? I don't want to say weird. That's judgmental. It's a different culture.
Okay, I see. Little culture shock.
A little culture shock with the porn station.
Right.
Try not to be judgy over here.
Yeah, I'm trying not to be judgy over here too. But so that was kind of like, and I had seen this after I had seen the pool prostitutes.
Right.
And it showed me that there are a lot of people in this city who are not down for this sex tourism stuff.
Well, would you be really? I mean, like if you had a restaurant, because you know it is really jarring when you see an older dude and he's got these like 2 girls with him and you're like, I really just fingers crossed that you're 18, girl.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm. We've saw that so many times. And the ladies are just fawning all over the guy and, you know, he's...
And do you really want that necessarily in your restaurant? Because it does creep people out.
It creeped me out.
Also, there's something really fucked up about it, about people coming from a more wealthy nation to kind of come and party and then like buy prostitutes and all of this stuff in a place where like their dollar is worth more, like basically in like a less developed nation.
Right.
Although the city looks extraordinarily modern. It's insanely gorgeous, this city. But I mean, just the reality of the economy of Colombia and all of that. There's something really sketchy about it. And about people doing that. It's kind of exploitational and
kind of.
Right. Right.
It's very exploitational. And these prostitutes, from what we understand, obviously we didn't purchase any ourselves or rent any ourselves. Not sure about the language on that one.
Right.
We didn't do any business with any prostitutes since we've been here.
Right.
Time's not up yet, I guess. But from what we've been told, the prostitutes are the equivalent of like $30, $40 each.
Right.
And they're gorgeous. And that's not a lot when you consider really what that is and what's being exchanged for that. I don't see value for value. I see exploitation, just like you're saying. And in researching this, because I was very disturbed by it. So much so, you know, I've got a story that we'll get into later on here, but I am very, very disturbed by the things that I have seen since we've been here in Medellin. So I went down the Google search rabbit hole.
As you do.
As I do. And I found all kinds of articles that have basically confirmed, or at least aligned with our experience here so far. From Far International, the male writer wrote, I was obviously there for the sex, at least according to the taxi driver who showed me around Medellin the first day of my visit to the city back in early 2010. That wasn't the reality, but I understood the confusion. Medellin has a reputation as a sex destination. Prostitution is legal here, and Colombian women are beautiful. It's these stereotypes that were, at the time, attracting a lot of guys my age to this city. The promise of a beautiful Colombian wife, or, well, sometimes a shorter-term relationship with one of the city's beautiful women. If you were younger, it would be drugs, the taxi driver said. And later on, the writer went on to say that this wasn't the only person, the taxi driver was not the only person that he had heard this theory from. Female real estate agent had told him the same thing, as did his attorney. later on in the article, he says that the city has really changed since 2010. From what I have seen, I don't think that that's the case, because it looked like there were a lot of coked up whoremongers up at the pool.
Yeah, it's not just a couple times that we saw this going on. And to be clear, Kari and I are actually not anti-sex work.
No.
We're actually pretty on board for that in general. If it's consensual, if it's legal, we want all of this.
I think that it should be legal. It should be legal and regulated. And, you know, it's interesting because I have read a lot of articles about this, and I went to a women's college. This was a subject that came up frequently. A lot of stats were brought up with this, and as far as I can tell, in my opinion and research, it seems like it's safer for everyone involved when it's legal and regulated, right?
Right.
However, it's legal in Colombia, but I don't think it's as, free market as the legality implies.
Right.
Mauricio had some stories about sex tourists too. Our fixer Mauricio.
Mm-hmm.
So Mauricio is, if not the only sommelier in Medellín, he's one of only a couple. And so he has wine tastings. And turns out there are a lot of similarities between the type of people who want to stay in the building that we're staying in,
mm-hmm.
and the type of people who might want to go to wine tastings on a vacay in Medellín. And what I mean by that is Mauricio regularly hosts wine tastings for sex tourists. They just kind of show up and they ask him where they can get the best prostitutes. Or, he has this thing
mm-hmm.
where he says he can always tell who's well connected and who isn't by the brothels that they brag about where they're going next.
Oh, right.
So if you don't have connections, the taxi drivers will send you to the sketchiest places where if you're lucky, you're coming out with a case of crabs and that's it.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, it's just rolling the dice.
Right.
With this whorehouse, from what I understand. And the other brothel is like the highest end one.
Mm-hmm.
And so when somebody says that they're going to this brothel, then he knows that they're probably well connected, and that's just like his own internal.
Right.
But he says that he won't tell them where to go, and he's offended by it. He doesn't like it.
Wouldn't it be kind of offensive, especially because a lot of these men are looking for underage girls, because that's what we've seen, that's what we've
right.
heard.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've had direct contact with this, and so how would you feel if somebody came into your city, like your hometown place where you've lived your whole life, and was like, hey, so where can I bang some 16-year-olds?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe some of your cousins, or like
just some girl down the street from you, or
girls that you went to high school with, maybe.
Right. And like, just think about how that must look, how that must feel. I mean, the fact that he's even able to keep it cool, I feel like, is admirable.
Right. Well, one of the articles that I had read, it was a story on Channel 4, a local channel out here, and an investigative reporter had spent a lot of time trying to get in with the cartels. And he ended up finally getting in with some and hearing their stories, and also talking to some of the local women. And one of the local women that he talked to was a really desperate lady who had also been a prostitute. She might still have been a prostitute. And he couldn't get any women to talk to him. He finally got one woman to talk to him, and it's because she was so desperate. She said she didn't care if they killed her, because the cartels had already sold her 14-year-old daughter's virginity. God. And she knew it was just a matter of time before.
Can you even imagine?
No, I cannot. I cried when I read that story.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was just a couple years ago. And when that story broke, there was some sort of investigation, and they ended up saving 7 or 8 girls from this situation. But that by no means, I don't think, solved that problem.
Yeah, I don't think that cleared that up.
And I saw this, and I saw it the other day, and I was ready to go. I came upstairs, and I was just ready to go. I had gone on a Starbucks run. I came up with 2 iced lattes. And on my way into the building, I saw a girl who looked just like my niece. And my niece is tall, she's thin, she plays volleyball, she's got beautiful long hair. And this girl looked just like her, except for she had a tattoo running up her arm.
Mm-hmm.
And then she looked at me, and I saw how really young she was when she smiled, and I saw that she had braces.
Oh, man.
And she was just waiting for her dude to come and let her in.
I know you were really, really shaken up after that.
She was very, very, very young. And she had tattoos and braces.
Right. Because we've seen some young ones, and there's lots where I'm like, man, I hope you're 18. Oh, man. Somebody that young, I can see.
The feeling of helplessness that I had there. Does she even know that she needs to be saved? Has she been conditioned to think that this is just what her life is? That this is just what she does? There was nobody for me to call. Security was the one letting her into the building. I cannot imagine that they had any illusions that she was there for any other reason.
Right.
I certainly had none.
That was basically almost, I won't say there were no women in our building, but there were very, very few. And the women that were there, it was pretty clear what they were there for.
Right. There were a couple of ladies with families.
Yeah.
You know, but they weren't really alone. You would go to the gym and the guys would bring their prostitutes into the gym. Those guys stay having sex with prostitutes in the gym, in the building.
Yeah, and in the sauna, like in the steam room. And the steam room is like the super bad place.
Oh, the steam room.
I will never will I ever go in that steam room.
No, we opened the door and just it didn't smell good. Right.
I won't tell you what it smelled like because I'm a lady. But let me tell you, I'm not going in there.
No. No.
You can't make me.
No. And it's like, do they not want to take them to the rooms? What is this?
I just think that like they can. I don't know. I don't understand the appeal.
Well, sometimes the prostitutes bite back. And there's this stuff called scopolamine. It's SCOPOLAMINE. And what it is this powder that is derived from a Colombian flower, so it's just homegrown.
Right? We don't have this here in the States, I don't think.
And what people do is they blow this powder into your face, and it makes you susceptible to suggestion. And also, you don't remember what you did when you're on it. It's like a total blackout situation but it's like a sleepwalking thing.
God, that scares me so much.
Yes.
This we haven't seen, but we've read about it. We've also heard about it from multiple people.
Right.
So sometimes these guys will go out and pick up a prostitute and she'll just blow this powder in your face and then take you around to 5 different ATMs so that you can drain your accounts.
Yeah. One guy woke up naked in Bogota after having some blow powder. He had no way to pay for the hotel room. Again, he was naked. So what do you do in that situation?
Wait, did he start out in Medellín and he ended up in Bogota?
No, I don't think so. It was all in Bogota. But, oh, God, that would be scary.
That would be worse. Because Bogota's another major city in Colombia, but it's not super close.
No. And from what I understand, it's even scarier there.
Yeah.
It's more dangerous there than Medellín. So blow powder, something to watch out for if you do want to dip your toe into the sex tourism waters. Just, you've got some things to be aware of besides STDs.
Yeah, just keep an eye out for that. Although I don't even really know how you keep an eye out for that. It seems like it could happen so fast.
Oh,
and would you even see it coming?
No, and it takes very little for you to just... So this drug was actually studied by the Nazis and Cold War intelligence agencies as a truth drug.
Oh, so this is pretty legit.
Right. And the chemical extract is highly toxic. So you don't actually know how, I mean, do you think that they care if they're blowing the stuff in your face, how much you get in your nose?
No, not at all.
I don't think so either. They're just waiting to get your ATM code.
Right.
So watch out for that.
That's so scary.
I guess that also pops up in Thailand
and
a couple other places, just exotic places. If you're going to exotic places, just watch out for that blow powder.
Yeah, it's a doozy.
Just blow out real hard and run away.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hold your breath. I don't know. So spicy, getting all kinds of spice. Just very hot.
It's a little hot. In fact, we might need some milk, not water.
Listen, I can tell you, I cannot stand this heat, and I need to get out of this kitchen.
Oh, but we're not even all the way there, girl.
No, we still have some more spice to bring. So I think the next thing we want to talk about is the drones.
The drones.
Because that was very scary.
Yeah, so we have sort of an ongoing, we'll call it a situation.
Is it a neighborly feud? Because I don't have anything against this guy.
No, I really wish he'd stop flying his drone outside our window.
Yes.
That's what I would really like to stop happening. So there's somebody in our building. Actually, there tends to be, we're up really high here. I don't know if Medellín just has a lot of drones or if I've just never been high enough up to realize how prevalent drone use has become.
Mm-hmm.
but they're fucking everywhere.
No, they are. And it's really, really unsettling when they are 2 feet outside of your window and you don't have blackout blinds on all of these floor to ceiling windows. So you're kind of hoping that just the shade blocks enough of you. But how do you even know? And this dude is just inside of our windows with a drone.
I mean, it's just really freaky because it's got a camera on it. You can see the camera right there.
Oh, you see the camera looking at you.
And it was literally 2 feet outside of our window. This happened multiple times. We have a video. We'll post it on Facebook. You can see this drone flying directly outside of our window. And then as soon as we turned a camera on it ran away.
Right.
So anyways, we weren't really sure where this drone was coming from at first. But we figured out by watching this thing, we saw it go into somebody's window.
And then it was all over because it was the same drone that kept coming back over and over and over again. And then we saw where it went in and we could figure out what apartment that was.
Yes. And I think it would be unwise for us to give you too many details, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But we were informed
that this is a very dangerous man and there's nothing we can do about it because if he wants to fly his drone into our windows, that's what he's going to do.
So just pull the blinds, Gringas, I guess.
Would you like to stay somewhere else maybe? Because there's nothing that we can do about this situation for you ladies.
Right. And then I don't know how to address this situation, you know, and then I think about stuff like, okay, so if this is a dangerous person, like my first instinct was like, maybe just throw something at it. Let's just fuck this drone up.
Right.
Glad I didn't do that.
Me too.
You know? And then, like, so he's just looking at us, I guess. And he's looking at a lot of people. I don't think it's just us. We've gotten, like, a particular amount of interest, I think.
Right. Well, we're weird here.
Right. Probably just wondering what we're doing up here. It's probably not malicious.
Right.
I don't know how to gauge that. I don't know what standard drone behavior or etiquette is. I'm pretty sure that's not it.
Right.
And, yeah, so, like, it's like a constant kind of threat of invasion of privacy. I love sleeping with my window open here because I can just hear the city. It's like a very quiet city, actually. Mm-hmm. It's really serene. And I just love that so much. And I love the view right outside my window. But I pull my blinds every night now and I don't get that view because I'm paranoid about somebody watching me sleep. I just would prefer for that to not happen.
I think that this is a good time to talk about losing our sense of weird. Because in reviewing the footage of the video that we got of this drone outside of our window, it was the first time that we saw it. So it wasn't as scary then. I'll give us that much.
It was kind of a novelty. And I honestly like drones. I hear all about it. Amazon. They're going to start delivering with it or something.
Is there a package on this drone?
Right. I was very excited. What is it? I don't know.
Is there some Aveeno for Santiago?
Right.
He needs that.
We're going to helicopter it in. So, yeah. So our initial instinct, because this isn't something we've encountered before, it wasn't fear.
It was kind of just like, wow, this is weird. Haha, there's a drone outside of our window. And then after it went away, we were like, wait, excuse me. Let's rewind this tape. There was a drone outside of our window?
Right. But on this video, it's almost kind of eerie to me now because this has become sort of an ominous thing that's kind of hanging over us here. This sort of constant, like, is this drone thing happening? Mm-hmm. But in that video, we're just laughing. But it's just, we hadn't even thought it through. We didn't even think of, like, what it might be. It didn't seem like a threat. They don't look like a threat. They're kind of wispy little plasticky things, really.
Right.
You know, it's a little robot friend. Come say hi.
I don't think so.
At the window.
No, I think this is how the AI comes to get us.
Right? But I don't think it's just a little robot friend. And I think we do need to be a little bit more concerned about it. I don't know how to assess it. I don't know how to look at it. I don't know what it means, but I know that we can't do anything about it. And that's something that's uncomfortable and scary.
You know what else is weird that has become normal to us? Getting into the front seat of an Uber.
Ah, yes.
So Uber versus taxi has a nice little Hatfield versus McCoy thing going on, except for the Uber drivers aren't really doing anything as far as I can tell, but the taxi drivers are very threatened by Uber. This is not, you know, a tale unique to Medellín.
No.
However, in Medellín, you have to get into the front seat of the Uber because the taxi drivers out there will randomly, if they see an Uber driver and it's clear, they will rip him or her out of the cab, beat them up, sometimes beat the passengers up, and then light the car on fire.
Yeah, that's a legitimate concern. And the Uber drivers freak out if you try to both get in the back seat because it identifies them. Mm-hmm. And you learn really quickly here that when you get into the Uber, you greet that person as your friend.
Yes. And actually, we had a scary encounter. Well, it wasn't a scary encounter with the police per se, but we were in the Uber and Kelly was up front. I was in the back and we passed a police checkpoint on the highway. And coming up to this police checkpoint, the Uber driver says, "We're friends, no Uber."
Right.
And I was like, okay. And he says, if the police ask, police, yeah, no Uber, friends. And I said, all right, but what's your name, man? Because I don't have a backstory here.
Yeah, like, where did we meet?
Is Kelly your girlfriend?
Summer camp?
Did I go to college with your girlfriend?
Right?
Because I cannot withstand questioning. I've got a whole lot of
No, this is going to fall apart real fast if you're questioning.
I can throw at that situation.
Well, and here's the real mind fuck, right? I have no idea what that situation was. And I'm not here to tell anybody what that situation was. Here's what I know, is I know that the taxis are wildly violent and aggressive towards Uber drivers. That's documented.
You do
That's
not
real.
see any mustaches on the cars.
No. The other thing I know is that when Pablo Escobar first started running things, the way that he first started laundering his money was through Escobar Taxi. So that structure, I don't know if people are laundering money that way. I don't know if the taxis are linked to the cartels. I just know historically this is the president and they're acting in this way that seems a little cartel-y. Lighting people's car on fire is just a little cartel-y.
Right. And it is no secret that the cartels built Medellín.
No, that's not just, yeah, absolutely.
It is a beautiful city. When you want to see what a giant influx of money looks like into a city, come to Medellín. You've never seen anything so clean and beautiful and new. And the people of this town keep this city spotless.
They really do. They really do. And so all of that makes sense to me, like the Uber taxi thing. But the mindfuck really came in with, we can't tell the police that you're an Uber.
Because isn't it legal out here?
Yeah, Uber is not illegal in Medellín as far as I am aware.
Right. So why do I have to lie to the cops all of a sudden?
So like I said, I don't have the answer to that. I can speculate.
Hey, can you reserve the right to be silent out here?
I don't know that.
I don't know if my attorney knows that. He might have Wikipedia or a quick Google he can pop if I call him.
Right? If they let you.
Right.
You know? And so that was a really crazy situation to be in because we just wildly in over our heads in terms of even knowing what strings were at work in that situation. Just don't know. Doesn't sound super savory or super safe.
No, it sounds a little spicy.
Right?
Too spicy for me.
I still take Ubers over taxis out here.
Oh, yeah, because at least then there's a record of where you've been and who was the last person to see you. Because with a taxi, and I'm not saying that this happens out here, I did not hear any stories of this happening.
Right.
But my fear whenever I get into a taxi is nobody knows who this taxi driver is. Nobody knows where he's taking me. He could just take me anywhere.
Right. What are they going to tell Nancy Grace when you disappear?
She got into a cab.
Right, and that's it?
There are 10 zillion cabs out here. It is not difficult to catch a cab in this city. I would prefer to hail an Uber.
Yeah, and so we kind of just balance that against the whole, I shouldn't laugh. This is the losing your sense of weird. This is the losing your sense of weird.
Yeah. No, it's not normal.
Because why am I laughing?
You've got to sit in the front seat, so you're not part of a car set on fire?
And I'm like, haha,
Just no big deal.
Whew.
So, Kelly, continuing to elevate the spice.
Oh, yeah, let's get there.
Question. So we know that Pablo Escobar laundered a lot of his money through that taxi business of his.
Si, senorita.
If you were to launder money on a large scale, because when you're talking about billions of dollars...
And that's what we're talking about.
Billions with a B of dollars that need to be laundered, of drug dollars that need to be laundered, how do you get a washing machine that big?
Right?
So, where would you wash that money, do you think?
Well, we've been thinking about this a lot.
Restaurants, top choice.
That's a good one. Yeah.
If you can get a chain of restaurants, that's even better.
Right. But also we've been looking around out these windows.
Yeah.
And a lot of these tall, beautiful, gorgeous buildings that just seem to be cropping up everywhere. I can see new construction all over here too.
Mm-hmm. Not enough buildings.
No,
gotta build more.
Gotta build more, and yet a lot of these buildings appear to be mostly empty.
Yeah, when the light comes streaming over the mountains in the morning through the windows, and you can really see inside the tinted windows of the buildings around us at various times of the day, what you see, bare concrete.
Yeah, it's insane. It's like there's not a stud, there's not a staple, not a floor, not a carpet staple.
No.
Nothing. Mm-mm. Just wall-to-wall concrete.
Some floors are occupied.
Yeah, like a couple.
The top floors are almost always occupied. Yeah, I've noticed.
Views are sick.
People like the penthouse suite. I don't blame them now that I'm in one.
It's pretty great.
I get it. I see what the hype is all about.
Right. And so once again, we don't know, but I just know that I'm looking out this window, I'm seeing a lot of empty buildings and a lot of new construction.
You know what's extra jarring is at night when it's like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. In a city like New York, you'd see a lot of lights on.
Right.
You really see how empty the city really is, how empty the buildings really are. When it's nighttime, people should be home.
Right.
In what looks like apartment buildings, not commercial buildings.
Yeah, I should be seeing a lot of fired up TVs.
No.
No, but around 8 p.m. here, it looks like what a normal city this size looks like at around 3:30 a.m.
You know, I'm going to be very generous here, and I'm going to estimate that the buildings are 25 to 30% full.
That is generous.
Very generous, right?
It's very generous.
I'm just throwing out a number for the people to give them an idea. And if, you know, this isn't, I don't launder money. I don't know exactly how that works. But I think if I were to launder a lot of money, maybe I would just invest in a lot of real estate buildings and claim that they were all full.
Right.
And just wash with maybe a 20% occupancy rate.
Right. And even the building of it, you know? It just... Listen, if I was looking for a really big washing machine, all of these empty ass buildings seem as though they might serve as one.
Just speculation.
Just like, I don't know these things.
I'm just putting on my money launderer hat.
Right.
Trying it on for size.
Just two Gringas here and looking out the windows, and we just got some questions.
Right.
Because this all isn't adding up, what we're seeing. We stare out these windows all day, and it was early on in the trip. It was like we stared out these windows and there's something wrong. What is it? Can't put my finger on it. What is it?
Oh, and then that sex tourist up at the pool explained it all to us. And that was the first time. That was the first week. Remember? And he was like, do you see all this new construction?
No,
and I was
kind of felt like he was just trying to impress us with all his seedy cartel knowledge, and we didn't even necessarily believe it was true. It's like, all right,
no,
Greg.
Right.
You know,
go home, Greg.
Get out of here, Greg.
You're drunk.
But then we started looking around, and like I said, we can't confirm. Listen, no one's told me this for sure. I don't know any of this for sure, but I know what I'm seeing, and I've got some questions. Is all. Just a couple questions.
Like, do those washing machines also dry the money?
Right. Because that's some wet money.
We don't have dryers out here. Pro tip. Ooh, travel hack.
Oh, yeah. Slide this in here.
Oh,
a little palate cleanser.
Yes, a little palate cleanser, travel hack. There are not a lot of dryers out here. And actually, I encountered that in Europe, too. I didn't come up with this hack. Santiago suggested this hack when I was complaining that the outfit I wanted to wear is still wet. And he said, well, why don't you just iron it dry? And I said, excuse me, do I look like a lady who irons?
Right.
I throw my clothes in the dryer to wrinkle them just like everyone else does.
Can you just like put it in the oven? Does that work? No. I don't know how laundry works.
I have been known to hang up a shirt in the shower, just turn it on high heat, and steam it out. Gringa?
Perfect.
Just steam it out. Steam those wrinkles out. So, but when your clothes are wet, you can't wear them. But if you iron them, if you iron your clothes, it steams it out real quick.
No, and I don't know why I thought of that. That shows you how often I just don't use an iron. Like, if it needs to be ironed, I don't own it for the most part. Or I wear it like once a year. Because I at one point Googled... Never mind. I won't even tell you what I Googled.
Okay. Moving on.
Yeah. But I did Google at one point if you could dry your underwear in the microwave.
Oh, no, I used to do that with my shirts in college.
Can you?
Yes, you can. You've got to, it'll burn. So you've got to unfurl it, get some of the steam out of the microwave. Yeah. That's an option.
Okay.
Were you embarrassed by that?
I just don't know how many people are microwaving their underwear.
I didn't microwave my underwear. It was a shirt.
Okay,
so it's a shirt that I did.
Don't judge me.
Listen, I don't know about the materials. Your mileage may vary depending on the materials and microwave used.
Okay, good talk.
So with the palate cleanser out of the way, let's get to the spiciest part, because the next part is the spiciest, I think.
It is very spicy. This was probably the spiciest thing I've ever encountered, like not in a movie.
Right. And I've got a nice quote here from that Channel 4 article that I talked about that uncovered the 14-year-old girl whose virginity had been pre-sold. Talking about chop shops. Now, the phrase chop shop does not make an appearance in this article, but we have heard multiple people in this city use the term chop shop. And for those of you who didn't listen to, is it Gringas in a Strange Land?
I think
we talked about it. For those of you who didn't hear that episode, I would recommend that you do. Gringas in a Strange Land is a great up, I think. But chop shops are a place where a surgeon resides. And at a chop shop, You might go there. When might you go to a chop shop?
Well, you probably won't remember the trip, or at least you'll hope that you would not.
Probably not. I think you might end up there if you commit some unauthorized crimes.
Yes.
I bet you end up there if you take that chick-lit DVD and coke dealer's bag of goods.
100% you do.
When he goes on an errand run real quick.
That's
and
why
just
he
leaves
can leave his shit just literally everywhere.
Not afraid of it, I guess. So the chop shops, allegedly, as we've been told, are places where bad people go, and they're taken there by other bad people, where they see a surgeon who either tortures and then kills them, or maybe just kills them directly.
Hard telling.
And then the body is then disposed of by some sort of cleaner. Now, a lot of the surgeons, from what we've been told, at these chop shops might be actual surgeons or actual doctors of some sort that the cartels somehow get their hooks into. It's not difficult to see how that might happen, given the news stories about how they don't have any problem snatching and selling babies.
Right.
Literal infants, not just 14-year-olds too. Like, I want to make that clear. There are also baby trafficking rings out here that I have read about online.
It's just crazy.
Actual news stories.
Well, and they go for like actual surgeons, it sounds like, because actually dismembering a body and doing it in a fairly clean way is not super easy, I guess.
I don't know. Another thing about chop shops is that apparently they're all over the city. And apparently whenever there's any major drug bust, or a lot of the times when there are major drug busts of, cartel houses or whatever, there are chop shops in these fancy mansions.
Yeah, it sounds like, from what we've heard, that they're kind of placed strategically around the city, because if you really want to disappear someone, you got to do that fast.
Apparently, moving a live body and even moving a dead body is just, there's a lot of risk involved with that. A lot of things that could go wrong, I think.
Right. And so they kind of have these places strategically placed around so that if the cartels want to yank you off the street and disappear you.
We've heard that that's exactly what they can do, and it won't take them more than 5 minutes to get you to any particular chop shop. Maybe 10 in traffic.
That's just horrifying.
Right? So, again, I heard all of these stories. I've been hearing all of these stories. And is it just people trying to scare us? How much of it is real? How much of it is like, some glamorized account of how dirty the city really is when you scratch off the pretty surface?
Right.
And I went looking for more information. And I have to say, I'm not happy that I did. So I'm going to read from this article. And in this article, it was a Channel 4 exclusive. This journalist was finally able to talk to one of the higher-ups at one of the cartels. Mm-hmm. And this man said to him, and this is all quoted, "We don't want to heat up the barrio," and the barrio out here is like the ghetto. Mm-hmm. "We don't want to heat up the barrio, so you won't see any bodies lying in the street like before. We are still at war, but you won't see the weapons in the street. The product has changed, but we are still providing services. Before, we sent coke into the world. Now, the world is coming to us. They come here because they can't get what we offer anywhere else." He is right. It's a shocking new criminal world thriving in Medellín, with criminals formerly of the drug trade now trading in women.
Yeah, and this is also, so here's the thing.
But the coke isn't hard to find either?
No,
is
it's
evidenced
not.
by the fact that people keep trying to sell it to us?
Right.
With DVDs?
Right. And so there is this, I think that there is a certain amount of glamour to the cartels down here. And I think a lot of tourists want to feel like they've had a brush with the cartel. And we have been extremely skeptical through this whole process about what we've been told. And we're also aware that even in the instances where what we observe lines up with what we're told, that in and of itself doesn't confirm the reality. We've only been here for a few weeks. We're only going to be here a little while longer. We obviously are actively trying to stay out of this, so we don't have a real close look at it.
We haven't been to one club. Clubbing is really big out here. In Mexico a couple years ago, we went to Coco Bongo. I would not recommend that again.
Yeah, I think it burned us on clubs.
That was my first club in something like 10 years, and I haven't been back to one since.
We're not really clubbers.
No.
It's not really our thing.
Come on, are we a little too old for that?
I think we're a little too old for the clubs.
But what
the club.
But what I'm getting at is that Medellín is still very much a party city, and I think that if spring breakers knew what they could do here and how far their money would go here and how beautiful the city is,
Right.
I think that more people would be coming to Medellín on spring break than would be going to, insert beach city here.
Right. I think this could be bigger than Cancun as a destination. It's insane here. It's like Never Never Land. You've never seen such gorgeous clubs, bars. The streets are beautiful. The people are beautiful. And, there's kind of just drugs everywhere if you want them. That seems to be true.
You see a lot of prostitutes.
And I think a lot of people would be into it. I think the people, though, should be aware that what they're getting into down here is more than what meets the eye. I don't know exactly what it is. I can't tell you all of it, but I can tell you that, like, where there's smoke, there's some kind of fire, and it's real smoky up in here.
It is. It's hot.
Hot.
And I'm an optimist.
I would say that about you, absolutely.
And when we came here, we thought it was going to be so sick. We were so geeked when we saw what this building was and how
what the city looks like.
I wasn't expecting beauty like this. And when we saw the prices and understood the exchange rate, we understood just the value that we were getting. And that alone was an incredible experience. To actually see how far your US dollar can go in other places makes you really wonder why you're spending so much on dinners in Boston.
Right. You can suddenly feel like a fairly wealthy lady on a just moderate income.
It's true. It's true. So, I came here with a really positive attitude. When I maintained that positive attitude up until that point where that dude in the building scared us.
Yeah.
And then we didn't leave our apartment for days.
Right.
And when we finally did leave, it was a scary situation. Were we going to run into this dude in the elevator? We talked about leaving. The drone thing started happening. I don't know if we were just in a kind of a transitory time. I don't remember. Maybe I was looking at prostitutes up at the pool, but I didn't recognize what I was looking at.
Right.
All of these things have really, really started to weigh on me in a way that I am ready to GTFO. I personally need to get out of here. I don't like that we are losing our sense of what weird is. I don't like when I look around and I see people who have been here for months and I see that they have very clearly lost their sense of weird.
Yeah, I think we see that a lot. And I know you've called me out on it a little bit because I do tend to just kind of laugh stuff off and like weirdly normalize things that probably shouldn't be. That's just my
coping mechanism, I'm sure.
Yeah, no, I come from a family where that's how you deal with stuff. That's just, you laugh. Mm-hmm. And so it's really easy for me to just laugh it off and laugh it off and laugh it off. And then what you have is this collection of things that are actually very fucked up that I haven't fully looked at because I've just laughed it off instead. So I am totally seeing that.
So what I'm really struggling with here is more than anything, like the scary stories. You can read scary stories anywhere. You can read scary stories about fucked up things happening to women in the US, right? So like I'm not going to let these news stories necessarily taint my perception of the whole city, but what I will say is that the prostitution, specifically the prostitution of very young girls, sickens me. It sickens me to see dudes who look like anybody from home,
right,
up at the pool taking advantage of, I am going to say taking advantage, because when you're a dude who's clearly in your 50s and you're with a teenager.
And you've come here specifically to do that, because there's a few guys in this building who are with a different teenager or a different pair of teenagers every single day.
Yep.
And I am not necessarily against sex work. If it's done ethically, I'm actually for it. But I can't figure out how to reconcile this.
No. And the worst part about it for me is that in the U.S., I am a very capable person.
Right.
I own a business. I have employees. I have clients who are happy.
You would like to see the manager.
I am able to make things happen to a certain extent. And if I see something like, let's say, something that looks like human trafficking.
Right.
I know who to call. I can do something about it in that situation. I can do nothing about any of this, as far as I can tell. And the feeling of helplessness, the feeling of impotence, the feeling of this is never going to get better for this girl probably. What's the rest of her life going to look like? It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe some people shouldn't come to a place like Medellín. I'm grateful for the perspective. I'm not necessarily opposed to having my eyes open to like the horrors of the world. It was just a bit much for me to see it up close and in person. And again, to feel just as helpless as if I were watching it on the TV. And for me, it's too much. And for people like me, I think that this city, if you stay here long enough and you can see it for apparently what it is, it's too much. And I am not ready in my travels. I don't think I am not an experienced enough traveler to come here and not have it break me on some level.
Yeah, I think we got in a little over our heads here. I think it's probably going to take us a while after leaving to entirely unpack everything about what happened here and what we saw and what we think about it. And I think that's going to be an ongoing process, but I think we definitely didn't come in here with a very clear view of this place or an appreciation of it, or just, I don't even know what we thought we were going to find here. It's hard to even remember anymore.
I remember the Reddit thread. I remember the articles that I read. I remember my friend saying, "You're going where now?" I was like, "Oh, Medellín. Haven't you seen it on Reddit? It's great. You're going to love it."
They're like, "I saw it on Narcos." Gringa. And we're like, it's fine.
Yeah, it'd be fine, right?
Cartels aren't. Well, it's just like when it's not. It's just it was hard for me to envision. Listen, I know cartels are a thing. I have no history. You know, I've read some things. I've read a book, but like I didn't really understanding like knowing about it in an abstract way, and then really experiencing a culture that has been so profoundly shaped by it are two totally different things. And I am humbled by how out of my depth I have been here.
So far, we're still alive, so that's a good thing.
Yeah, high five on that.
I think we've got some where we went wrongs to review and prep for.
Yeah, I think we need to do a little soul searching, and we're gonna take a good hard look in the mirror. We're gonna have a good long talk before we record that, I think.
Yes, I don't know if all sketchy sounding cities are like this. If some of them have maybe, I'm trying to think of another one that I maybe wouldn't want to go to.
Juarez, maybe.
Ooh. Maybe Tijuana. You know, I've been to Tijuana before. I drove through it. It didn't look that scary.
Well, but this place does not look scary. When we were here, when we first got here, we were like, "Holy shit! How is this place real?
Who kept this a secret from me? I'm so glad I found it."
Right? Why isn't it like London, Paris, Medellín? You know what I mean? Like
it should be. It looks like it should be.
It's that gorgeous and that impressive, and the scale of this place and the beauty of it, I can't even express. And like we stay posting pictures on Facebook of this place, and I'm telling you, it's not translating.
No.
You know, you just can't even imagine. And so I don't know.
So we've got some soul searching to do before we hit our next destination, I would say.
I think so.
And I am very much looking forward to the Where We Went Wrong episode. If you want to hear what the last one was like, you can pop into Where We Went Wrong in Aguada, Puerto Rico. We made a whole different series of mistakes on this trip.
We just keep finding all new ways to screw up.
Right, just brand new ways.
Just so creative.
But I want this to be a project of empowerment for people. I want to help show people that they can untether their lives. We've got guides to doing this on our website at workationing.com. I don't want this to scare people off from traveling to weird places. You and I stay chasing weird things.
Right, and I think we'll get into it more obviously in the next episode, but I think that more research is needed. Approaching a place with a greater understanding of the cultural context. Instead of, you know, I feel like I knew about, I had the word cartel kind of vaguely associated with Medellín before I came here. Mm-hmm. Didn't really dive into what any of that meant.
Right.
I think we could do a better job with that going forward.
Right. And maybe we just stay away from some sketchy places for just a bit. We've got one under our belt. I think that's enough for now.
Yeah, I think we can dial it back.
Okay, I'm still in on this. Are you?
Of course. And I have to say, in all of this, I have been so grateful to have you as a friend and a partner here. And I'm really proud of how we've hung in there so we're telling you all this crazy stuff, but in the meantime, we're also working, slaying our work. Yes. Somehow. Just pulling the blinds to keep the drones out.
Gotta write this blog post. I can't do it with this buzzing in my ear.
I got this conference call. Right. So, and I just can't believe what we've managed to accomplish here, and I'm just really proud of us, and I just want to thank you for being so awesome and so in this with me, and you're the best.
Thank you. We're in a scary situation, and I'm looking forward to holding your hand in the terrifying cab ride on out of here.
Harrowing.
Let's just go to the airport, Gringa.
Yeah, let's get there.
All right, so I think that wraps it, and I don't feel like it would be appropriate to have an ear snack at the end of this.
No,
You?
I think we're just going to peace out.
Pass on the ear snack.
Yeah, this is more of a somber. I know this was like a less funny episode, but I think you can understand why.
There's not a lot of fun.
Not feeling real haha over here.
In the spicy section of the local flavor.
No, but we'll rally. We'll pull it together for you guys. Thanks for hanging in with the heat.
Yes, thank you. If you would like to learn more, if you would like to scope out some photos, pop on over to our Facebook page, facebook.com/workationing. That's facebook.com/workationing.
And we'll get that drone video up because it is kind of wild.
It is.
All right.
Bye.
This has been another episode of the Workationing Podcast. If you like what you heard here, make sure to like, rate, subscribe, and leave us a review on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, or wherever else on the internet you're hearing this.
You can also go to workationing.com. That's workationing.com.